Yeah, we just have to work our shipping plans properly, and we are actually getting low on certain carbons right now in a few locations. So batch 1 is getting close to actually being sold out.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the eSKATE Chat podcast with Evolve. On this episode, we're going to be talking about all things global pandemic.
It's a very touchy subject, and we've all been challenged. So, yeah, it's a good idea.
And we know everyone hears about this every single day.
Yeah.
But we thought it would be cool to talk about from an eSKATE brand perspective. So all the reasons, all the things, how did it affect Evolve, our customers, all those sort of things. So kick us off. When it first started, what happened?
Oh, man, yeah. When it first kicked off, this was early 2020, and I know we were in Japan at the time. We were doing that trade show, and it was all just sort of escalating. And then by the time we got home, it must have happened within a month. By the time we got home, Australia went into lockdown. And then like literally all our other locations, Germany, UK, USA and California, everywhere, it was like one after another. And we were in like panic mode. You know, no one's dealt with this before in our lifetime. And so we didn't know what this meant for our business. How do we run our business? You know, can people actually go out and start using skateboards? There were so many questions that we didn't have answers to, and we went into crisis mode. Like literally all our plans that we had made for the next 6 to 12 months just completely went out the window. And financially as well, like we didn't know, you can't plan. We didn't know, can we even operate our business? You know, what did this mean for anyone trying to purchase a board or anything? So all our financial forecasting, we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, so there was definitely like the long-term, who knows what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
But in day-to-day operations, and of course every country is different, so we had to, I remember looking daily, what's UK doing, what's this? It was so hard to keep up because long-term, that's one thing, but are people going to be in the warehouse to actually dispatch orders? Like, what are we doing? Like, Can we send boards if we sell them? How are we doing service? Who's going to pick up the phone?
It's so true. And every day it just seemed to change for us. And we, you know, just looking at Australia, like we went into complete lockdown, and we didn't know who was meant to come to work, if we could come to work, as like you said, and how are we going to handle our communication? How are we going to send product out? So there was so much information that we needed to get through, and of course, like any business, you want to stay open. You don't want to shut your doors, and that was always in the back of our mind. Are we going to shut our doors? Because this happened to so many businesses here in Australia, and every business had to pivot. They had to come up with new ways of trying to run their business, and it was really challenging. It was scary times, and it still is. But then that happened in Australia. It happened in UK. It happened over in California, Germany, and France. It was like a snowball effect. So total crisis mode. But it was really strange. Like everyone was then stuck at home, not being able to do anything, being told that they're not allowed to leave and go outside, and they can only go outside for like a certain amount of time each day. So, you know, for mental awareness and keeping yourself sane, you're able to do exercise. And all of a sudden what we saw, you know, we were thinking that's it. We're going to see nothing, no sales over the next little while. All of a sudden we saw so many more people online, and it was a really strange event. There was this COVID blip in the system where everyone had more time. Everyone changed their mindset of focusing on new things to do. How can we look at other ways to get around, avoiding public transport, new hobbies, new interests. The lockdown was just chaotic and crazy, and all of a sudden we saw a huge spike in demand for the product, and it was consistent across all our businesses that we owned, but also our distributors. They had the same thing, and it was just holy moly. It was like a seesaw. It went from are we going to go out of business because we're not allowed to operate, to then, oh my God, this is like bigger than Black Friday and Christmas, and it just went on. It went 1 month record, and it just kept going. So it's so hard to plan. Whereas we were one of the lucky ones. Like all sports during the COVID, sports and hobby industries just went through the roof. Like bikes, scooters, skateboards, longboards, and then all this huge demand created massive shortages and not being able to supply. And I remember too, like internally when it first kicked off, we were having daily meetings about what are we going to do? How are we going to communicate with our customer? What's the messaging that we need to put forward? And I've never seen anything like this before, because it literally, we had to change it every day because rules were happening in different locations. And oh my God, how much backlash did we cop online? We put a person out riding a skateboard, and then next minute we just get pounded with, oh my God, you're not allowed to do that. And because we're an international business, rules are different for different locations, and there was a lot of misinformation about what you could and couldn't do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone had a different set of rules, so it was incredibly hard as a global brand to put out something. Like in Australia, we didn't get hit so hard, so we had a whole bunch of freedom. But when we started doing group rides again, everyone else was still in lockdown, and then there was backlash to we shouldn't do that, but they're the rules here. So yeah, that was definitely a challenge. And going back to when we were running ads and stuff like that, trying to work around the wording, because you were allowed to do it. That's the thing. And we know, we've spoken about it a million times, it's a great way to get outside, clear your head. You're allowed to go walking or jogging or whatever it is. This was something that fits into that. But it was very hard to tell people that without sounding a little bit reckless.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, that's just one of the challenges in telling people skating's still good to do, because it was.
Yeah. Especially at the time when, it was just, everyone was just being pulled away from the norm, and you had to get outside and do something to clear your head. And this was a good means for it.
Yep. There was also the sort of essential services that, that was a reason in some places why we did stay open, because people were still using these to get around. So it was important that we did need serviceability still.
Yep. We had to get very creative too, how we ran the business internally, because like here in Australia, in our global upstairs and our operations downstairs, we got 25 staff just here. So we were having to split teams. It was like 1 week on, 1 week off. So the other team worked from home. The other team worked, on hands-on in the store, in the factory, and so that was challenging enough as well. Just trying to communicate this with our teams and make sure that if there was any crossovers, we didn't get shut down. And we had to do that over in UK. Same with USA. It was hard.
Yeah, there was different things we did in each places. I know we put customer service at home, redirected phones, things like that to try and be as safe as possible.
Yeah,
but still maintain being open and being able to service people.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was all contactless, and even dealing with our couriers, that whole changed as well. There was no signing anything. Everyone had to just pivot and look at new ways to run their business.
I want to talk about how it affected the riders. So we know Evolve and eSKATE in general is like a sport that's very based in community. The online side of things is huge, so that's not going to get affected.
Continued.
That sort of continued. Everyone went online. They're still talking. But the other side of that is all those people get together to ride together. That's a massive part of this. And that was wiped out. It was gone. And so for some people, that is the reason they ride, a sense of being together and sharing that.
Yeah, well, it definitely affected us because we had numerous events planned, from race events to community get-togethers. We love doing that stuff. And, we were going to have the Evolve Riders World Cup again. It was meant to be in Germany, and that got canned. So that was disappointing. And then, our normal sort of community get-togethers, we couldn't do it. And then what has made it really hard, though, in different locations is that, especially here in Australia, you have a lockdown, you come out of lockdown, and it's great. And then all of a sudden you go back into lockdown, and we're seeing a lot of this right now. Like in Australia, it was all great. And then the last 3 weeks, now we've got 3 cities in total lockdown: Melbourne, Sydney, now Adelaide. And we've got an event happening on Saturday. It's called the Australian Open. And this has been a scary time because we've got so much time and planning and has gone into this, and now there's going to be a bunch of riders that can't come to this, and it's always in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, if I travel to this state and then all of a sudden there's another 1 or 2 cases, am I going to get stuck? And there's a lot of that happening at the moment. And
as event organisers, we sort of took the stance, well, we can't sit around doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's, what do we do? Wait this thing out till 2024 and then not have any events for years?
Yeah.
So we just, I guess, are rolling the dice on whether or not this stuff is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's a little scary. And obviously you got to put investment into it, and you don't want to sell tickets and people can't make it, and then you're letting them down as well.
Yeah.
Refund, obviously.
Yeah. And at the same time, we're trying to keep the sport and the community and people having fun, but at the same time, we've still got to follow the rules and be safe. I remember we did a ride over in Cali when things were all in lockdown, and there seems to be a lot of grey areas, and it worked. We still managed to do a COVID safe ride, but it's not the usual ride where everyone has some drinks and has some food afterwards and get together. But so we've had to get really creative in how we do things, and we've been dealing with this now for like 18 months, and we're hoping that things are going to get easier.
It seems to be getting a little better. And something that I've noticed, especially in the UK and England, those guys lost their last summer. They got hit pretty bad last year, and they went into a real tight lockdown, and they don't ride so much during winter because of weather. So they lost peak riding time. This summer's rolled round. Restrictions are all but gone. And I feel from what I'm seeing online, these guys have attacked summer with like a renewed sense of excitement and passion.
Yeah.
We're going to take this summer and make it ours.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of events, group rides. People are just getting with their friends and traveling to places just to ride it. So it's
Freedom Day, isn't it? That's what they're calling it.
There's a sense of freedom that, I mean, they had the freedom 3 years ago, but there wasn't the motivation to exercise it. So I'm loving seeing them do that. And I think as things open up more and it's less taboo to jump on the planes, people hopefully are going to have this renewed sense of excitement to go and do all these things.
Yeah.
When we were doing the Haitian film, there was a fair bit of travel involved in that. We went around Australia to a few different places. We went over to New Zealand. We didn't plan to go there because at the time we started filming, it wasn't open.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it opened up. We booked flights in like 3 days. So just that level of uncertainty makes it so hard to plan anything.
Yeah, and travel has changed. There's no doubt about it. Like trying to get into interstate, all the declarations that you have to fill out, trying to get international. Well, here in Australia, there's no international at the moment. We're not allowed to fly anywhere. We can finally have the border bubble with New Zealand, so that's been good. But again, that only lasted for a little bit, and now it went into all shutdowns again. So it's very hard to plan anything these days.
Taking it back quickly to the Australian Open, that is in 2 days' time. It's on Saturday.
Yep.
Run us through what we've done to pivot and just what we're doing pretty much.
Yeah, cool. So, it's all happening. We had a few scares. We're still in a touchy zone because all week I've been very worried that we're going to get cancelled because of these lockdowns happening in these various locations. And and the show must go on. It's, Southeast Queensland, there's no restrictions up here, and only parts of New South Wales can't come up. So it's business as usual. We've lost a few people, unfortunately. There is a hand, like all of Victoria, there was a bunch of riders. Numbers are less there, which is disappointing. And we've lost a few from Sydney. But so what we've done is we've been trying to promote it the best we can. And instead of just being like a full-on race, what we've done now is we've combined it with some free track time to just boost the numbers. And make it more of a friendly event plus a race event at the same time. So that's been our pivot to get numbers. We've definitely lost a few. It's not going to be as big as what we've always had in the past, but I still think it's still going to work. So it's happening on Saturday. How many riders think we got now?
About 50.
Yeah,
That's
including some staff.
Including some staff, and then we've got more roll in for that free ride session. Yep. But I think even the uncertainty of local people not knowing if they're going to be able to do it on Saturday, I think there'll be a lot of people on the day arrive once it's confirmed that they don't have to go through the whole unknown.
And what we're also expecting is because, as soon as you put like a race element to it, you get a different mindset. Not everyone wants to be competitive, which is fair enough. People just want to ride for fun, and that's where we've seen all the go-kart events. It's always been huge. It's just free ride, have fun, come along and just get out and enjoy your board and meet other people. Then you put the race element to it, and it puts a few people off. So what I think is going to happen though on the day, the guys who are just going to free ride, they'll realize that the track is pretty fun. It's not that bad. And hey, maybe I will come and try it out. It's just a fun race. There will be some competitive people there, but at the end of the day, we just want to have fun. So, but we would have had a lot more fun if we had those guys from Melbourne here, more people from Sydney. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I was just stoked that those guys were going to come up and mingle with the community. So when there's multiple groups get together, that's always fun.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, shout outs, Ruroc, Insta360 and Skate Connection. They've stayed on board.
100%.
And it's going to be rad. There'll be a video out next week. So we're excited to share the stoke.
The team's ready. Monster's going to be there. We've got the schedule sorted. We got the track set up.
Is it going to be a couple Hadians?
I reckon there'll be a couple of head-ins, but again, I don't think speed is your friend on this track. Like, I think it's definitely going to come down to skill. And you can go fast around those berms, but then you got to sort of back off when you're hitting those tabletops. And so, we'll get the Hadians out definitely, and I guess we'll probably do some demos once we get through the race, and just we want to keep the voltage in the boards.
Cool. Time will tell. So we've spoken about how it affected the business immediately and other bits and pieces. Sort of more long term, it's like this is across all industries. It's had effects on shipping, componentry, shortages. I know lead times, especially. I'm a mountain biker. There's some bikes you cannot buy in the next 12 months. You cannot get them. Yeah,
well, it's been, all the hobby industries, outdoor activities, sporting goods, they've seen the massive COVID spike. They just got hammered with interest, and demand went up. No one had prepared for this, so everyone sold out of their product pretty quickly. Those that were in a good position to supply, and then with all this extra demand, put major strain on manufacturing. All of a sudden, all these different industries at the same time are needing specific raw materials, rubber, aluminium, and then you're moving on to like all the electrical components as well. And then at the same time, while EV transportation is getting more and more popular due to climate change, and it's been like a COVID snowball of supply and demand. So we're definitely going to see, and it's already been affecting us, trying to get your hands on batteries. We've had issues with supply of like MOSFETs, CPU chips,
That's it.
Bluetooth chips.
You could be missing a $5 tiny little part, and you don't have a board.
Done. You've got no motor controller. Yeah, that's right. And not to mention all these other products have the demand at the same time, so they're needing what they need for their product. So it affects everyone. And we've seen it with in the skate industry too, like trying to get wheels, like urethane, the raw material that goes into making these wheels from our US supplier has been challenging. And dealing with our mates over at Loaded and Orangutan too, they've had a lot of supply issues because it's gone crazy. Everyone wants the product. There's only so much you can do. So it'll be really interesting where things are at, I think, by the end of the year, and how other businesses solve these problems and pivot. So, yeah, it's challenging. It's hard to run a manufacturing business when you're in a pandemic environment like this. And then you've got shipping issues, all this extra demand, prices go up, and container shortages. Like we've seen shipping go up in price like 3-4 times.
Yeah, I've seen graphs where container shipments have gone up 5-10 fold for the price of a container.
Yeah, and you see all these prices going up, and previously you'd worked your business on a particular margin, and then it eats into how you run your operations and whether you survive and how do you control that as a business. It's not easy.
How do you see the next, say, 12 months going in terms of we handled that demand, we've made our pivots and we're working with all those things?
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
Well, I think we've made some very good choices in terms of our direction, but I feel as though within our industry there's definitely going to be some players out there who are going to run into supply issues. That's my guess. I can't be 100% sure how they're running their business, but I know firsthand that there's 3 or 4 components out there that you really can't get, or you can get, but in very, very small drips and drabs.
Or they're expensive.
Yeah, but it's more so the drips and drabs, like certain battery suppliers, and definitely the chips shortages. It's full on. So I guess if depending on the size of your business and how much you're supplying, if you're only small, and you probably won't be so bad. But if you're actually trying to supply a lot, then probably going to have some issues ahead. But maybe next year it'll be a different story. That those supply shortages will be caught up, and then things will be okay. So that's really what we're wanting for everyone.
Yeah, as with everything, once the demand's there, there'll be more people trying to move into the supply space. And I know there's definitely handfuls of companies trying to do it, but these are very specialized things. Microprocessors, I don't believe it's not something you can just make.
No, this takes a few years. Like, there's all these chips are generally made throughout Asia. Same with all the batteries, everything's made throughout Asia. And there's only so many factories making them. And the EV movement at the moment, all these big companies getting away from the old combustion and going into electric, all of a sudden they need all these components as well. So this is what eSKATE's up against.
If you're trying to compare the whole eSKATE world to General Motors.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, and they don't need 48 batteries in a board. They need 3,000 cells.
Yeah, and then they need to make a lot of cars. And then they have the power to negotiate with these big manufacturers, these supply brands, to go, nope, you're going to supply me, and that's it. And that's just how it works. And so, yeah, everyone, you need to pivot, you need to get creative, and you need to be able to negotiate.
Awesome. So there's healthy workarounds, but then there's things like the lead time that, it's just going to be part and parcel of all things from now on. And that's sort of evident in, I guess, the Hadean, right? There's a ship time in that, and that was a bit to do with manufacturing times and shipping, all those things play into part with that.
Yep. Yeah, well, so far things have been great with Hadean. It's been a very successful launch. We cannot wait to see the boards get out to, all the supporters, who've been the first adopters to us. We are very grateful for the support, and we know that when you get these boards, you're going to be stoked. So yeah, we just have to work our shipping plans properly, and we are actually getting low on certain carbons right now in a few locations. So batch 1 is getting close to actually being sold out. So we'll notify those who are in those locations pretty soon. Yeah.
So if you're on the fence, the boards, they're not going to last until September. So you want to jump in the queue, it's probably a good idea to do it, or you can wait.
Yeah. Well, it's doing it in batches. We feel as though it's a good way. And then, once we do reach that number, we'll notify everyone and we'll give everyone a heads up once we're very clued on with our timings.
Awesome. Well, that's probably enough COVID talk for one time. If you've held on this long, thanks. I hope that was a bit of an insight into how we try and run our business and the ups and downs of doing so.
Yeah, ups and downs of manufacturing, and let's just hope, things level out in the future and everyone catches up and, we're all in a better space.
Awesome. See ya.
See you guys.
Yeah.